What's up, agents? It's Sunny in Colorado, and welcome to the Digital Agent Academy. Thanks for watching. Today, I want to talk about things you should be doing as an agent when you're either presenting to a buyer or a seller, but basically, the general things you should do to represent yourself as being the professional agent in your market. Let's get started. One of the biggest things you can do is learn your particular market. And that means housing areas that may be in your particular market, which are the top 10, who's the favorite inside your market, and the price in those markets, and maybe even the pros and cons inside of each of those particular housing markets. Okay, so you may have on the south side of a city that has particular pros and cons that a particular type of buyer may love. And then up on the north side, you may have the exact opposite, or maybe it might be the same thing, but it's good to generally know what's close to those different markets. And every time I say market, I'm talking about a different residential area or a different district, but those would all be considered different because that's just the way the world works. When you're out there, I mean, you can go out there, and even if you're not an agent, there are going to be neighborhoods you love that are okay, you can care less about, and then also housing areas that you probably wouldn't want to live in. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. But what you want to do is actually be the professional for your market. If somebody asks you a question, in my particular case, I live in northern Colorado. There's quite a few towns and cities up here, and they all usually connect. And yeah, it all depends on you how much you want to reach out. Do you want to cover the whole state and even try to sell the things you know nothing about? It's probably going to be better for you to minimize what you're trying to learn and work your way out. So if you live in a particular community, definitely try to own that community, farm that community, become known in that community. Use social media definitely to your advantage. Post ads if you're going to be doing ads. Do them for the community you're in. So if you live in a particular town, post ads particularly for that town. This way your neighbors start seeing your face and recognizing you in the street and seeing you as the professional in your town. If you can conquer your town, you can move out to other towns and conquer those, because you're already going to have all the information just by dealing and listening with buyers and sellers on what their pros and cons are in the market and why they're not selling, why they want to sell, why they want to move there, why they don't want to move there. These are all things that you can use to your advantage to help either buyers or sellers. Use social media to your advantage. It's free. It's the best way to get out there. I don't recommend going to every single social platform. Do a little bit of research on what you think you can keep up with. So if you think you can do 2 videos a week on YouTube, do that. Okay, don't do 20 other video styles. Use the same videos that you're using on YouTube, but make sure it's about your market. So this way, everybody in your market starts to see your familiar face and starts to recognize it. When you call them, they're like, hey, ain't you that guy from YouTube or Instagram and all those great things? But use it to your advantage. But definitely learn your market as much as you can, and then reach out and start learning other markets. That'll make you the pro in your area, and definitely make you be the person that people reach out to for you to be their agent. That being said, make sure that you know the resources in your market as well. Whether there's a YMCA, maybe some gyms that people may be into. And as you put those out there, you can either use them to do the top 5 or the best this or the best that. The restaurants in your area, the different types of restaurants. You can use all these things to show that you understand the area and know that what's in the area to present to a buyer. You may have a buyer that loves Mexican food, and you have the top 5 Mexican restaurants in your area. That's definitely, if food is important to them, then that's going to be important information. So learn things like that. It may not be important to you, but I guarantee you it's going to be important to somebody out there. On the other hand, learning out and reaching out to other markets, usually people ain't going to move from one block to another. Usually people, when they're moving, they're going to move to a different area. But it might be the same area, just a different housing area that kind of fits their new lifestyle, whether they be downsizing, they're taking a 3-bedroom house, wanting to move to a 2-bedroom house, maybe something where they just have too much land to maintain that they don't want to, and they want to get to a regular house. Maybe they want to go to a condo. Maybe they want to live in a place that's / commercial because they want to be able to get to a coffee shop really quick. So just try to learn all the ins and outs you can. All right, and this will definitely help you as you grow. Remember, social media is something that's going to take a while, but remember, it costs you zero to build that, and it's also going to gain you the facial recognition to any of your clients reaching out for that for homes in your market. Now, once you have created an agency, whether you're a seller agent or a buyer agent, the biggest thing I can tell you is to be there, be available. This is the number one thing. Show up. That means if you become a buyer agent, because once you find that buyer something in the general area of what they're wanting, you want to get a little bit more detailed to make sure at the end of that particular transaction, when you close, that buyer still remembers you as an agent and how much you did for them, and in the future may even refer other clients to you, or even reach out to you to even grow their empire or sell their home in the future to move on to another home. Just keep that in mind and always keep that great relationship. The more work you put in, the more revenue you're going to get out of that particular transaction. Now, once again, keep that in mind. The relationship is more important than the transaction. Why is that, you say? Because if you're just let's say you go get a seller and you just put their information, you take some iPhone pictures, they're horrible, you put them on the MLS, of course the home is probably going to sell because of the demand for real estate in the United States, period. However, comparing you to another agent that went out and marketed professional photography, got that home sold within a weekend, did due diligence, got memberships for that family to the local YMCA and all these great things, you're never going to be able to compare to that. And I guarantee you the next time that particular homeowner that you assisted the first time and treated them like a transaction will definitely be looking for a new agent that takes care of them on a higher standard. Because as you know, once you get into real estate, there's a little bit more money to go around, and when you grow in real estate, you're definitely going to be moving up instead of down, unless you're just getting older and you want to decrease the amount of work you're doing on it. So the relationship is way more important than the transaction. As long as you make great relationships, the transactions are going to come. So just keep that in mind. I know it's a hard concept for some people to understand, and it does mean for you to put in most work, but you should be following your ethics and doing all your due diligence and be the best agent you can for that particular client. With that being said, open houses. Are you doing your open houses? Or are you having other agents to do your open houses? And if so, what's the reason? Is it just because you're lazy and you're going to a party on Saturday instead of doing a open house for your client? Be very careful with that. Make sure you are showing up, showing your face, showing that you are doing the work you're being paid for. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When an inspection takes place, be there. Do your damnedest to be there for that inspection so you can explain what is important, because what your client is going to get when they do an inspection, I don't care if it's the most perfect house, there's going to be a list of 100 items that the inspector ticked off. Not everything's important, but that is his job to notify his client of any little thing that needs work on the house. In other words, if there's a floorboard that has a crack in it, is that important? No, it's not. Does it cost a lot of money to replace? No, it probably just needs some paint or some putty on it. It may be nothing, but that inspector doing his job at the best of his abilities should be reporting that big crack in that, and he'll state in his remarks that it's not a big deal, and here's how you can resolve it sometimes and all stuff like that. But keeping this in mind, the other thing you want to have as an agent is vendors, okay? So don't think that you can just do this on your own. When you come to the table for a client, let's say a buyer is wanting to buy a home, right? And this home is great. However, the only thing is it needs a new paint job. That's the only thing wrong with it. Do you just tell your client, oh, that's no big deal, you can just hire someone? But imagine if you had 5 painters that you already knew were kick-ass, and you could supply that client with them 5 painters, and they can contact which one they want that you already vetted, and they feel comfortable knowing that you took care of all the work. It's always nerve-wracking when you're owning a home to reach out to one contractor for the first time, whether it's a plumber, because you're always taking the chance, and people with, depending on how much money they have to be putting into that, not everybody wants to go just extreme as far as how much something is cost. Most people are always going to go for whatever's cheapest. However, if you have someone you trust and you know that the work is quality and they back their work up, usually the amount of money being paid for that is just going to be the cost of home ownership. And it's not going to be looked at as a stressful situation on whether somebody did the work right. So compiling vendors, loan officers, anybody that has anything to do, landscapers, anything to do with the house, if you can think of it, insurance, all these things that come along with home ownership, or the possibility of something to may happen. If there's trees on the property and they're full-grown trees, usually homeowners aren't going to want to deal with those things. So make sure you have a tree guy, somebody that you know is quality and does great service, so you can at least give them that phone number. Hey, if in the future, if you need help with your trees, here's a great tree guy. Boom. These are extremely valuable when it comes to the relationship between your buyer, your seller, and you as an agent. It is the sweetest thing you can present to them, is showing that you have all the resources to take the stress off of their ability to buy a home and live in that home. And that is it. That is a great thing. I mean, do you ask your friends, have you ever been to this restaurant? How is it? Right? The reason why you're asking is because you trust your friend to give you the information so that you can go and invest in that food. Go pay that money that you didn't really want to go pay. Ain't nothing worse than going to a great restaurant that you have a bad experience at because people said it was a great restaurant, but you knew firsthand there was a problem, or firsthand that there was actually a problem. It's the same type of thing, The more you provide, the better value you are to that particular client, and the more likely that they are going to use you and recommend you for the future. Now, basically, the better relationship that you can provide for your client is taking away their pains, their stresses. Some people may just not even, they're not good at looking up stuff on the internet to find themselves good contractors, so that's why it's vital. At the same time, they may feel uncomfortable with being around while inspectors inspecting a home and not understanding exactly what that inspector is trying to communicate to them. So in those particular cases, if you're not providing a great inspector, and it's maybe you're new and you've only met one inspector and that's the inspector you're using, at least at the minimum, be there to explain what the inspector is explaining to your client after the fact, because something can sound extreme until you show them exactly what that entails. Like I was talking about the floorboard. I've been a homeowner for 20 years, so I've dealt with almost everything you deal with in a home. I fixed almost everything. There's certain things I won't touch that are currently in a home. Like I'm not going to rip a wall apart to add more electricity unless it's something simple. I've done all the things. I know what it entails. So I've done a lot of the things that it requires to be a homeowner. From doing just the simple things of keeping things clean and maintained, changing filters in the house, knowing where certain items are in the house, to bigger things like actually finishing a basement to code, doing floating walls, doing drywall, doing electricity, three-way switches. I've done a lot of that stuff, so I know what it entails. The thing that is simple to do, such as replacing your water heater, I truthfully would not do that myself, so I pay for that to be done. Replacing a whole HVAC unit, of course I can do it just like any other person can do it, but do I want to do it? Heck no. I will pay somebody to do that and make sure that they're passing code and inspection. Okay, so there are limits to what I would say or recommend for a person that is just a normal homeowner that's not a contractor themselves, on things they should be fixing versus things they should hire somebody to do to not make the mistakes and have things ruined in their beautiful home that they just bought. So that's the gist of this, but the biggest number one thing is show up to everything, always be there, and make your client feel that they can contact you anytime and you are going to have the answer to their situation. Remember, when in doubt, find out, and never just say, I don't know. Always follow that, I don't know, but let me look into it and I will get you the answer you need. That is a much better way of dealing with the client. Okay, so once again, agents, keep killing it out there. Every day be 1% better than you were yesterday. If that's the minimum you can give, you're still going to be 365% better at the end of the year. All right, so you have any questions for me? I'm Sonny in Colorado with eXp Realty. If you have any questions about my brokerage or any questions about the Wolfpack, the organization I belong to within eXp Realty, if you want to know how we're doing things better than everybody in eXp Realty, reach out to me and let's kill it together. Take care and keep killing it.